Welcome back. In this video, I will be showing you how to remove the front bumper on my 2013 F-150. This is going to be pretty straightforward, so let's jump right in. The first thing you need to do is pop the hood so you can gain access to the bolts and nuts you need to remove. Next, we need to disconnect our fog lights. If your truck doesn't have fog lights, you can skip this step. Your fog lights can be accessed between the wheel and the front bumper, and this is the connector you need to unplug. Now, what you want to do is pry these two tabs right here towards you while pulling the connector down. Once they are pulled far enough forward, the connector will drop. Just like that. That's all there is to it. Just pull on these tabs while pulling the connector down. Let's do the same thing on the passenger side. You can see I am prying both of those tabs out like this, which essentially unlocks the connector and allows me to push it down. Just like that. With both fog lights disconnected, we can get under the hood. You are going to want to remove the latch for the hood, and in order to do that, you need to remove these outer bolts right here, and then this bolt in the middle. Let's start with the outer bolts. Grab your 8mm socket as well as a 3-inch extension to prevent the ratchet from making contact with the bumper and possibly scratching your paint. You can remove these without worrying about the latch dropping. However, you will have to do something specific in this area when installing again. I'll show you that later. There's one bolt. And there's two. Now we can remove that middle bolt. However, this one isn't an 8mm. This one is a 10mm. The 3-inch extension is pretty much a necessity for this bolt, so go ahead and remove it. Perfect. Now let's get the latch off of the bracket. This is very simple. Just pull the latch to the left like this and then lift it off. Just like that. Looking at the bottom, if you look above this little hook, you can see a slot right here. That's how it grabs onto this square slot in the bracket to keep it aligned as you are screwing the bolts back into place. Again, I'll show you how to get this perfectly aligned later in the video. Moving to the left of the latch, you need to remove this black cable right here. That's easy. Just push it towards the vehicle like this. That's it. Then you can move the whole assembly up and make sure it rests on something to prevent it from falling down. That looks good. Alright, now we can disconnect this mini flimsy splash shield from the bumper. Mine had 3 clips, which I will show you once they are disconnected. You can remove them by hand like I am doing right here, but you can also see it's not the most efficient way of removing them. This will take a little while if you're doing them by hand. For the other two, I decided to use something else. I couldn't find my panel removal tool, but that's okay. A pair of pliers like these will work just fine. Just grab the clip with the pliers and pull in this direction. Now do it with the third and final clip and then we can move on. That's great. And here are the 3 clips we disconnected. They can stay in the splash shield so we don't lose them. Alright, so the only thing left is to remove the 4 main nuts that secure the bumper to the frame rails. There are 2 right here on the passenger side, and if we move over to the driver's side, you will notice the other 2 nuts right here and right here. Those nuts are 21mm and they are on there pretty tight. So I grabbed a breaker bar and used that to break those loose. These are convenient and make the job so much easier compared to beating the ratchet with the palm trying to break the nuts free. Once they are loose, remove the socket from the breaker bar and put it on your ratchet. Now go ahead and start loosening both nuts. I should also mention you should be using a deep socket instead of a conventional socket for these. Once they are both off, we can move on. There's one. And there's 2. Let's move on to the other side and do the exact same thing. First, start by using your 21mm deep socket on your breaker bar and loosen both nuts. Perfect. Now place the socket onto your ratchet and go ahead and remove the 2 nuts. There's one. And there's the last one. At this point, your bumper should be sagging a little just like this. Go ahead and put your hands in the 2 slots next to the license plate and pull the bumper back. Now this bumper is heavier than it looks, so it's going to lean forward towards the truck as you are pulling it out. You may need to do what I did, which is use my right hand to grab the bracket that the hood latch mounts to. And then as I am holding the bracket, I slowly pull the bumper towards me with my left hand. Holding the bracket will allow the bumper to sit straight up and down and not lean in one direction or the other, which makes it easier to pull out. Perfect. Your bumper is now completely removed. Now let's reinstall it. Go ahead and grab the bumper, and you need to try to get the bumper in as straight as possible. Due to its weight, you may need to use your legs to help keep the bumper level. Once the top of the bumper is in, go ahead and reach around and grab that hood latch bracket again and pull up. This will straighten the bumper and allow you to work the 4 studs that the nuts mount to into their correct position. You are going to pull up and maneuver the bumper from side to side in order to get those studs in. Just like that. Make sure both sides are in, and then you can finger tighten the nuts. I should mention it would be a good idea to use Loctite on the thread of these nuts to ensure they do not back off. Once the nuts are finger tight, go ahead and grab your ratchet and tighten them down slightly. You do not want to tighten these down too much, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Make sure all four are slightly tight, but the bumper can still move around. Alright, now let's talk about why you shouldn't tighten them all the way. There's this huge gap that we need to close, and in order to do that, we can't have those nuts torqued down. You see how there's a gap between the bracket and the bumper? In order to close that, we need to pull up on the bumper, just like that. Now you could just insert the two bolts that go into these two holes, but it's a plastic piece and the bumper is kind of heavy. So instead, I decided to start tightening the nuts with my ratchet. Whichever side you are pulling up on, start with tightening down a nut from that side. Since I'm holding the left side, I am tightening down a nut on the left. Once that is tight, go ahead and move to the other side. Pull up on the right side of the bracket and then begin tightening down at least one of the nuts on the right side. Perfect. Now the bumper is being held up and you can tighten down the other two nuts. I searched and searched my Haynes and Chilton's manuals for the torque specs on these nuts. However, I could not find anything. If any of you know, please comment below and I will add it to the description. I'm going to just tighten these down a decent amount and then move on. I'm not sure to describe how much to torque these down, so you should definitely make sure you have the correct torque spec. Like I said, I will add it to the description the minute I find the correct specs. Once they are tight, you can grab the two 8mm bolts and finger tighten them to the bracket. Now, grab your 8mm socket and ratchet and snug them down. These are screwing into plastic, so remember, you do not want to over tighten these. Just enough until you feel comfortable that they will not loosen over time. Perfect. Now you can grab your latch and bring it down to the bracket. First, you want to attach your cable by placing it between these plastic tabs. It should just pull through like that. Then grab your latch and keep in mind where the hook is so you can place it in the square hole in the bracket. Now give it a push to the driver's side of the truck and then we can get that bolt in there. Alright, this is a 10mm, and just like the two 8mm bolts, you do not want to over tighten this because it is screwing into plastic. That should be good. You can see the gap is a lot tighter now that we pulled the bumper up. That's exactly what you want. Finally, we can reconnect our fog lights. This is simple. Just push the connector into the fog light bulb and that's it. Very easy. Do the same with the other side and then we are done. That's all there is to it. If you found any part of this video helpful or entertaining, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button as well as the notification bell so you don't miss a video from our channel. Thanks for watching and we'll see you on the next one.